Hey guys, how to make it Atheist Radical here. So let's talk some fucking Deadpool 2, shall we? Holy fucking shit. So it's Friday morning. I watched it last night for the late night screening. God damn, was that the movie that I needed for such a terrible fucking day that I had. I knew ahead of time, like, nothing could be so bad that I can't go in and watch Deadpool and laugh my ass off and feel better. And it did not fucking disappoint. So obviously, with this review, I don't think I need to tell you as a grown adult or whoever's listening to this. I mean, come on. Full spoilers are in full effect. If you are going to watch this movie, just fucking watch the movie first before you watch reviews in the first place. Jesus Christ. Stop going off of what people say about the movie and just watch it for yourself if you want to see it. That's a whole nother video. But anyways, let's go. So going right in, you kind of expected something a little silly. And yeah, same old fourth wall breaking stuff and, making fun of Logan, having the, what would you call it? I guess the music box almost in a way. That pretty much set the tone right off the bat. You're like, all right, we're gonna be having a lot of fun in this. So the way the movie really starts is that it has to go right off the bat with the biggest cliche in the book when it comes to superheroes, and that's their significant other or a major family member or something like that. Obviously in this case, his girlfriend is shot and killed. And this is because of him not finishing off a guy that he was assassinating, and it came back to bite him in the ass. So he feels completely responsible for it. And in fact, he goes back to that I just want to fucking die mode that, you would expect from someone who can't die because, why would you want to live when you have immortality? Eventually something's got to happen that makes you be like, okay, this is bullshit. I don't want this anymore. So the movie kind of moves on from there through him trying to be rehabilitated by the X-Men, or I should say the same, really two X-Men, with Colossus and I can never remember because it's some long name. I think it's like Neg. I know Nega has something to do with it, but you know exactly who I'm talking about here. That goes about as well as you'd expect. He ends up being a quote-unquote trainee for the X-Men, which ends up being referenced like at least 10 different times in the movie. It just ends up going really well for him. It's one of those jokes that, does carry on a lot, but it doesn't grow old. Thankfully, it doesn't. And that's the thing, too, that you can worry about with comedy is that sometimes you go to the same butt end of the joke too many times. You go to the well too many times, and it bites you in the ass, but in this case, it doesn't. Through this trainee experience that Deadpool has, he ends up meeting who actually ends up being essentially the antagonist of the story, which is Russell, who is a young kid who ends up having the powers of, I guess, shooting fire out of his fist. So he calls himself Fire Fist, which, again, that gets criticized and made fun of several times in the movie. And initially, it just seems like, he's a fucking tortured kid. Like, it's very clear that wherever he has been held for this amount of time, he's being, like, absolutely fucking tortured. To the point that, he has bloodlust for the people that basically fucked him up his entire life. And in wanting to kill them all, obviously Deadpool tries to, do the right thing as a trainee and eventually does what he thinks is the right thing, which is shoot one of the guys in the head, doesn't shoot the right one. And he naturally gets, Colossus kind of gives up on him and just throws him in prison, and Russell ends up joining him. Through this, they have no powers. They put this, like, mutant deactivation collar on them, which, of course, great plot device. And Russell just really wants to have a friend. You can tell that that's all it is. And Deadpool being, Deadpool, doesn't really give a shit. So he ends up burning that bridge pretty early on, to the point that, Russell completely abandons him even though, Deadpool saves his life at least once, but it's because of the words that he uses that Russell just is like, okay, fine, you don't want to be a fucking part of my life, I'll go become friends with the biggest dog in the yard, who we end up finding out later. In that time, obviously, Cable shows up. And I don't know. I guess it's hard to like Cable because his character's almost designed to be a buzzkill compared to Deadpool. So I don't think he did a bad job, and there are moments that he really stands out. But in the early going, it's like, he's just cliche badass character. So I mean, if that's one of the very few negatives I have about it, it's just, it's Cable as a character isn't always, that interesting, which I don't feel is not by design. It might actually be the legit point that, there needs to be someone kind of dull and boring to kind of balance out Deadpool. But I digress. They end up all separating, and Deadpool, in realization, he's been trying to, like I said, he's been trying to kill himself so he can go and be with his girl. And it gets to a point that he has I guess you could say a spiritual experience where he keeps getting trapped behind the proverbial glass, being unable to go right up to her and hold her. And she keeps talking in riddles, as one would expect, which even he points out is okay, this is kind of getting stupid. Can we just get to the point? And it pretty much comes to terms that, he needs to be able to prove that he could be a role model for a child, because that was always Deadpool's biggest concern, is that he wasn't going to be much of a role model. And he figures out after a while that, it has to do with Russell. So he has to try to save the kid. And Cable wants to kill him because once Russell gets that first kill under his belt, he kind of just keeps that bloodlust and eventually keeps killing, and one of them ends up being Cable's family, I should say. So that becomes Deadpool's goal now, is to try to save him. And through all the stupid shit that he does, he tries one more time to help, upon the realization that, he's going to get a little more than he bargained for. So we get to the first ridiculous part of the movie where he assembles that team that you guys saw. Obviously you have Terry Crews's Bedlam. I don't know the other people's names because I didn't pay attention to the casting list. But you have Shatterstar, who I actually liked through playing the video games and stuff. I thought he looked cool. You have I can't remember what the acid spitting guy's name was. And then you have obviously Domino, you have Vanisher, and you have Peter. Which, it was a good balance. And then it really goes to show you how much the movie takes liberties with all the obvious cliche stuff that you see in these kind of movies, because as soon as their mission starts, everybody except Domino and Deadpool die. They jump out of the helicopter. Bedlam immediately gets killed by falling right into a bus. Shatterstar goes up in a helicopter blade. Peter lands successfully, but Acid Breather doesn't, and goes into a wood chipper, and in the process of trying to help him, the guy spits on Peter, and that ends up killing him. And then the best part is Vanisher, who goes right into a power wire, and for a split second we see who Vanisher is, because he's been invisible the entire time, and it's fucking Brad Pitt. Man, the only thing that I said to my girlfriend on the way home is that, man, you know who it should have been? After all the talk of Interview with the Vampire with Nupinder calling Deadpool as Tom Cruise and he's as Kirsten Dunst, I would have laughed my ass if it was Tom Cruise as Vanisher. That was the only thing that I'm like, man, if they had done that, oh my god. But yeah, everybody else is dead. Domino, of course, her superpower being that she's lucky, is the only one that somehow survives. And, badassery ensues. However, that completely gets stopped when you find out that the friend that Russell has made is not well, I guess you could call him a monster, but it's the motherfucking Juggernaut, bitch! And that kind of made me mark out a little bit, just a tiny bit. I just like Deadpool, I am a giant Juggernaut fan, so I'm like, oh shit. Now, I will admit Juggernaut was not that impressive in this movie. Vinnie Jones did such a better job of it. I don't even know who plays the Juggernaut in this one, but it's not done very well. The CGI does it properly. He has the big look that he's supposed to have. But in terms of his voice, I guess he's not really meant to be that interesting to begin with. So it's very much like Cable, where it's you just accept it. And after all that, Deadpool gets ripped in half. That ends up cueing probably the funniest part of the movie, including a Basic Instinct reference, which, oh boy, that they really test out the mature rating, don't they? But after all that, Cable finally joins them reluctantly because he needs them because of the Juggernaut. He tries to, or Deadpool, I should say, tries to recruit the X-Men to help out. Colossus really doesn't have any interest in helping him at that point. I guess I should say, too, I don't know what the Asian girl's, mutant name is. Obviously, she goes by Yukio as her name. Holy crap, I wasn't interested in the other girl, Nega Teenage Warhead, I think. Now that I'm thinking, if that's the correct thing, I'm surprised I remember that much. But, those two together, that's the best of both worlds for me. As, someone who is big into, anime girls and that kind of stuff. All I'm thinking of is, wow, a punk-looking, tomboyish-looking girl and an Asian girl with pink hair. What am I... how do you get much better than that? And the idea that, Yukio is so innocent and Deadpool is he's just adoring her. Every time he's hey, Yukio. He's always talking to her so nicely. It's so funny that way, to have that balance between her and Nega. So they finally go for the big final battle where Juggernaut is going to be the big catalyst in this, and they just keep getting their ass kicked. Cable does his best, can't really do much. Finally, after having a bad go of it, Deadpool goes right back to having something stuck in his head, so he ends up being a little high. And in the process, he gets saved by Colossus and has quite the little gay escapade going on there. And that's when you see that everybody else join in, and we start to see things move from there. I'm a little disappointed, I guess, that we don't get to see a lot of fighting from everybody else. Nega got a little bit in the first movie. Doesn't really do much here. Yukio gets basically one move, and that's just chaining Juggernaut's legs. That's it. And I guess because of the trailers, I was kind of disappointed that you didn't get to see any fighting from Bedlam, Shatterstar, Vanisher, or any of them. But that was kind of the butt end of the joke, right? So you kind of accept that for what it is. But yeah, they deal with Juggernaut pretty handily once they all come together. And then the real focus is just on, trying to save Russell. And realistically, it's not going to happen. So Deadpool does the one thing he can, which is show that he does care by sacrificing himself when Cable uses the last bullet in his pistol to try to kill him. And Deadpool jumps in the way of the bullet. And because he's got the collar on him at this point, because he puts the collar on as a way to show that he really does care, because he's willing to put his life on the line when, there's no healing factor involved at this point. And that's what comes to bite him, where he ends up taking the bullet right in the heart, almost the exact same place, actually, that his wife takes it. So he expositions for far too long, to the point that I actually thought what was going to happen was somebody was going to get fed up with him and just grab the collar and rip it off and be like, all right, you've had your chance to die. And that was it. But he does actually die. Except Cable uses his final charge on his time travel machine to go back and put that skee-ball coin that he gives his girlfriend at the beginning of the movie as an anniversary gift, and he puts that in the spot where he would have been shot. Which is, I guess, a little plot devicey, because how would he know that was the exact spot he would be shot? How would you remember that? But, whatever, you take that as it is. So, yeah, he survives, and, everything is back to where it was. And we're just kind of left to assume that the X-Force is now a thing with Domino, Colossus, Cable, and Nupinder, because the two girls leave after this. And you think everything's good, and then we get to the post-credits, where, hot damn, man. That might actually be the best post-credit scene we'll ever see. Because Deadpool gets the time travel machine fixed and decides to go and correct so much. So he saves his girlfriend, which you figure, okay, that's a gimme. The second one, I got the third and the fourth. Oh my god, what was the second one now? Oh, no, why am I forgetting? Well, that one's not as important, I guess. But he goes back to the moment that his shitty self is revealed in X Origins Wolverine. And as soon as you expect that battle to happen, you just see Deadpool get shot, and that's it. And real Deadpool walks out and just keeps constantly shooting his shit self. And then he finishes it off by going to, I guess, himself and shooting himself in the head for accepting Green Lantern. So, yeah. yeah, that was really, really fucking funny. That's it's almost amazing, actually, when you think about it, that's, that they would allow that. The 20th Century Fox, that Marvel would even go to that point, and especially with all the DC referencing. Like, man, you almost figure that somebody getting sued, but I guess it's all in fair game, right? So, all in all, like I said, I gotta tell you, I enjoyed this movie so much. So fucking much. Because it does what it needed to do. It made me laugh like crazy. Now, if you want to go in and say, well, the story was kind of meh, there wasn't really a real antagonist to it because the Juggernaut's not really there long enough to establish himself, you could do that. But I mean, at the same time, you kind of got to realize that this is a Deadpool movie and not, some Academy Award winning picture. So if you're coming in expecting a really good story, you might be in the wrong place. Because the reality is Deadpool really only has one job, and that's to be as funny as it fucking can. And it does that in spades. I'm torn between giving this a 9 or a 10, and I think the only reason that I'm going to give it a 9 is because I did want to see a little bit more from the minor characters. I think they spent a little too much time with just Deadpool and Cable. I can get past the joke of the entire X-Force basically being killed in one fell swoop, but I would have liked to have seen more from Yukio and Nega Teenage Warhead. That's all I really would have asked for, and that would have made me a little bit happier. But otherwise, I mean, I go back, Colossus definitely was a lot better in this one than the first one. Obviously, I love the look of Nega a little bit better now that she has hair. Like, she looks perfect with the way that she is there. Yukio was just fun. Domino is a fucking badass, and I'm glad that she gets to survive compared to everybody else. And other than that, I mean, Cable, like I said, I already did my piece on Cable. I already did on on Juggernaut. Russell was kind of cringy, but I think that was the point. He's meant to be this young kid he just wants to be cool, man, and he's just kind of being a bit of a douche, bit of a dumb douche for that matter. But yeah, I'm gonna give the movie a 9 out of 10. Like, if you were put off by how depressing Infinity War was, and I could have done a review on it, and by the time I had the chance to record, I'd forgotten a good half of everything. Like, at that point, I literally sat there on my drive to work thinking, man, like, if I recorded a video, do I even remember, like, who survives? And I kind of, like, I wasn't coming up with everybody. So, I mean, if you were basically looking for some rehab after Infinity War Part 1, Deadpool is exactly what you need. And now I'm just excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp to kind of cap all that off. And, at this point, I don't think Marvel can really go wrong at this junction. I think they're doing everything right. And it kind of shows why, all these movies are working, because they're just having fun. They're not taking the source material that seriously. They're just going out and making sure that they make a fun movie. And Deadpool, like I said, does that so fucking well. And it just has a few minor setbacks. It just doesn't make it perfect. So that's really how I feel on it. Love to know in the comments below what you guys thought about the movie. Like, just tell me, how close were you to crying from laughing so hard? Because I came close a couple of times there. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Be sure to share the video as well with all your friends. And I will see you next time.